I'm here with Ben, or the Sports Gamer 12, and we are talking about Madden today, or not Madden today. We're going to talk about NFL free agency, maybe do a little bit of predictions and stuff, but for the most part, it's going to be free agency. In the meantime, we're going to be playing a game. We haven't really figured out who we're going to be yet. I don't know. I guess we'll just do random if you want.
Yep. Sure. We'll do 3 randoms and just pick one of the 3, I guess.
So we'll start on Chicago because they're first in alphabetical order, and we'll both hit L2 on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Oh, okay, that works.
Oh my God.
All right. Well, we both. All right. To put you in retrospect, where we started on the Giants and Falcons, those are our favorite teams, and we both fucking hate the Eagles and the Cowboys. So we're gonna go again.
Hey, I'm okay with this.
Of course you get. I don't really want the Colts. They kind of blow.
All right. Well, I got one.
Yeah. We'll just keep going until we get. No. Oh, there we go. Let's see what you get. Of course. I mean, I'll stick with Seattle just for the sake of time. If you want to keep going,
I'll go back to the Giants. I'll do Ryan one more time. Yeah, I'm going back to the Giants.
All right, so we're gonna do the Seahawks. Why are they at 87 overall?
Fuck it, let's do it. I don't care.
Madden been updating.
Did they have Vince Young or something?
All right, I'm gonna do the coolest uniforms ever.
Yo, let's do the color rush.
That's what I'm saying. Coolest uniforms ever.
You have neon green, I have basically neon blue. How
are
one of them in Seattle?
The real point of this video isn't the game between the Titans and the Seahawks. It's about the NFL free agency, and it's been going pretty interestingly so far. We're going to start off with some of the big deals that have gone on so far, and then we'll jump into some of the people that are still free agents and that have yet to be signed. So one of the biggest ones for me, we're going to start with, obviously, as you all saw, I'm a Giants fan. Brandon Marshall going to the Giants. I honestly think that's going to help the Giants a lot, and all they really need is a running back, which we'll get into a little bit later about who they might sign. But do you, like, a lot of people are saying, like, Brandon Marshall is too old, he's going to be a bust, like, he's not worth having on the team. Like, what, do you think he's going to be a bust? Or do you think he's actually going to help?
I see him as a very high risk, high reward. God damn it, I'm picking off. And here's why.
Can I ask a quick question? How do you turn down this gameplay volume? Do I have to pause it, or is it on the home screen?
I did mine on my headset. I have it on my headset myself. But now I can just pause it.
Alright, well, anyways, moving on. Yeah, you keep going.
I'll say this. I see him as a high risk, high reward because here's the thing. Whether, yes, he did have Fitzpatrick in with the Jets last season, and he wasn't as productive. So, could he end up being like that? I don't know. I think he's going to be a hybrid between his first season with the Jets and his last season with the Jets, where he's going to be somewhat productive, but so I think he has to accept the role that I'm not sure he wouldn't accept the role, but I think he has to accept the role that, hey, I'm going to be the number 2 behind Odell, and there's very few other receivers that would take over that role of being a number 1, and that could be a debate for another day.
Madden without like any sound or crowd or just like anything.
Yeah, just no puts there.
So moving on past Brandon Marshall, I mean, just kind of closing thoughts on him.
It definitely boosts their offense a lot, and I definitely like the acquisition, especially because it's only 2 years, 14 million, or 12 million, or something like that. They're paying 6 or 7 million per year for someone, and they don't really have to worry about him too much.
And moving on, as I got a little distracted by the fact that Jermaine Kearse just went the distance. Yeah, my closing thoughts on Brandon Marshall. I think that I'm a little salty that we lost Victor Cruz, to be completely honest. But I might have missed that kick. I did. But having Brandon Marshall on the team just kind of makes everything better. Like, there's no way he can be less productive than Victor Cruz has been in the last 2 years. as awful as that is for me to say as a Giants fan, it's true. So, in my opinion, he can't do worse. So,
I
I
will
think
say
he's
this
still an upgrade, no matter what.
to wrap up this as well. I like it, including the loss of Victor Cruz, because now one person that's going to benefit the most, Sterling Shepard, because he's going to be in the slot. Obviously, you know, this it adds Eli a big target. Like it adds like when he had Plaxico Burress, Mario Manningham to a decent extent. Yep. So it gives him that like big target. Not saying outside because he has Odell in the slot, but now he has someone that's a big target in the red zone, and I think that could help him out a lot, especially in the NFC East where you know the Eagles have a good defense and all that. So I mean, I like it.
We'll stick with the wide receiver trend here. Another former Chicago Bear wide receiver that has moved on to another team. Come on, Sherman. Another
Almost got pick six.
Former Chicago Bear, Alshon Jeffrey. He is now on the Eagles, and he's not the only wide receiver to go to the Eagles. Torrey Smith has also signed a deal with the Eagles. So Eagles stacking up the offensive line. Eagles were a team that last year I thought were going to be like a dangerous team, and then they just kind of like died. I don't even know what happened to them. So considering like everything that happened, I picked that up. Yes, okay. Considering everything that happened with the Eagles last season and now signing Alshon Jeffrey and stuff, are wide receivers like the only thing they need? Do you think they need to like? There's other stuff they need to amp up and not go so heavy on the wide receivers.
Surprise! I would say they need to get as Wilson's just gonna make me look foolish here. It's rocked.
It's right.
I would say they need a running back. Some of the running backs out there, Latavius Murray, Adrian Peterson, Jamal Charles, which we'll get to those probably a little bit later.
Right.
But I would like to see any one of those go to Philly, because let's be honest, Ryan Matthews, he's solid. Darren Sproles, he's a good third down back, but they don't really have anyone, especially when you look at who's in their division, other than really the Giants. The Cowboys obviously have Zeke, and to a certain extent also Dak to run the ball, and they have a great offensive line. So they really need to have a good runner, because you can't just air it out, because it's not going to work.
Well, we all know the bombshell that went off when DeMarco Murray decided that he was actually a good running back, and it wasn't the Cowboys' offensive line that gave him that great season. I mean, he did okay for the Titans last year, but on
Philly, just the scheme is more of a spread scheme. Because they had Chip Kelly, so didn't have.
All right, but anyway, back to the Eagles for a second. Honestly, in my opinion, I like Carson Wentz. I liked him coming out of college. I can't throw a ball away apparently, but I just don't see him as a quarterback that'll lead him to a Super Bowl. I just think that the Eagles are just missing an it factor, and Alshon Jeffrey is a great wide receiver, but he's not it, and neither is Torrey Smith. I just think your it factor has to come either at your running back position. I fucked that up horribly. The lag is horrible right now. Anyway,
yeah, it is kind of bad.
Anyway, I just think that an it factor for the Eagles per se is a running back or a quarterback, and they don't really have like a all-star one at either of those positions. So, in my opinion, I don't think that. I think Alshon Jeffrey will help the team. I just don't think that he's going to turn them into a playoff team, or the addition of both of them together, I don't think is going to turn them into a playoff team, especially considering how competitive the NFC East is now.
I will say this. I do give a knock because I actually wasn't confident on Carson Wentz. I was actually complete opposite with you. I was not confident in Carson Wentz whatsoever. I never heard of him until the draft, and I just never got any of the hype. Okay. I never bought the hype with him, and he definitely proved me wrong this year. I'll admit that. I think he's a solid quarterback.
I think he's good.
He's definitely
I just
average.
don't think he's it. Yeah, he's
Neither do
average.
I, and I'm still
Exactly.
not set on that. Like, there are people that are set on him, and as I just juke you the fuck out.
I didn't fall
But I
though. I
think
stayed with it.
solid quarterback, especially for what they need. I think he'll definitely he has a lot to prove, especially in a very competitive division of the NFC East and even the NFC in general, if you want to think of it that way. But I don't know.
All
Do
right.
I think he's gonna
Well,
be a Pro Bowler? No. But you
well,
never know.
we've been. It's almost the end of the first quarter here. We've been on the wide receiver train for a while. We do have a few more wide receivers that moved around just to get to real quick. We're just going to do them all here in one segment to end the first quarter. Deshaun Jackson going from Washington to Tampa, and Terrell Pryor, where did he sign? I know he's not on Cleveland anymore. I have it right here,
Washington.
actually. Washington. Okay, yeah, so Washington picks up Terrell Pryor. They lose Deshaun Jackson. Upgrade,
And Pierre
downgrade, what do you
Garcon.
think?
I also lost Pierre Garcon, which I don't remember where he went
Yeah,
to.
but
I just know they lost him. It does fix one of the two, because I think they both had over 1,000 yards receiving. I don't remember exactly, but I know it helps one of them. I think it helps more with Pierre Garcon, not necessarily Deshaun Jackson, as I completely fail there. But I like it because he's a speed guy. He can help Cousins, but I think if the Redskins want to make any kind of moves, they need to make other moves. Probably for a long time.
anyway, while he argues with his family members, sticking with the whole Deshaun Jackson thing, I like him on Tampa Bay. I just think that from Washington's standpoint, they lose out here because not only do you lose Pierre Garcon and Deshaun Jackson, but to me, Terrell Pryor, like, no quarterback makes that well of a jump to a wide receiver. You just don't see that often. And I know Terrell Pryor is a little different. He's got a lot of athleticism on him, but I just don't think that he's going to make much of an impact, if any, on Washington. And I just think that Washington's going to end up being the bottom team in the NFC East next season. Not only because of the wide receiver. They have other problems, but you know what I'm talking about. So we're heading to the end of the first quarter here. Pretty much it. I tried to throw that, but I guess lag told me otherwise. Let's switch gears here a little bit. Let's head over to some of just big off-season signings. Or not even signings. This is a wide receiver deal, but it wasn't a free agent deal. It was a trade. Brandon Cooks going to the Patriots. Now, the Patriots have been making a lot of moves, and we're just going to talk about the Patriots here for a second in general. They get Brandon Cooks. They're going to lose Malcolm Butler. They might lose Hightower, and they might also lose Blunt. But why can't I throw the ball away? Just overall, the Patriots are doing, it's really hard to argue with what the Patriots do, considering all the success that they have. But they're losing a lot of defense and gaining offense only.
What's going on with this game, by the way?
I don't know. I picked my play, but... Alright, try on. Well, I think I'm going to get a delay a game penalty or something.
That's fine. We can keep talking. You can keep talking, by the way, and I have something to say as well about the Patriots.
No, that was
Not
actually
'cause I'm
my
an
question.
Atlanta
Do you
fan.
think they're focusing too much on offense and they're losing too much on defense?
I will say this.
And we lost the broadcast.
Okay, that explains it. What?
I'm sorry, I just want to know if you have 2K.
Yes. I only have one controller.
Yeah, so we lost the broadcast.
Yeah, I heard you.
Hang on.
I'll just pause it right now. They're asking to play the fucking PlayStation. Like, they're like, when are you gonna be done? I'm like, I don't fucking know. I got ginger ale. Fight me. One thing I really need to do is move out. Or at least get a room that has like those sound foam like in the production room. And just border up my room like that. Any pan, but don't use the small one because then there's gonna be like. Well, I'm saying don't use the small one because then there's gonna be like only like 9 pieces bare minimum if you want to have a good enough amount.
One thing I really need to do is move out.
Oh, yo, we're still live. We're back.
Or at least get a room that has like those.
Okay.
Like in the production.
Well, there's gonna be yelling at my house because my sister's making brownies.
All right, well, we're back, I guess. Sorry for the confusion there. My PlayStation told me that it stopped broadcasting when it didn't
Obviously, it
actually
wasn't the
stop
case. I should have
broadcasting. Or, I don't know, it might have for a sec. But we apologize
Anyway,
for
back
the
to the
technical
Patriots.
difficulties and for the screaming in the background. Not much we can do about either. But what I am going to do is go back to the Patriots, and we were talking about how they might have lost too much on defense and focus solely on offense. What were your thoughts on that? I don't know how far we got with those.
The thing that with me is, like, and I'm gonna be speaking objective. I don't like the Patriots, not just because of the Super Bowl, just in general. I've never liked Patriots, but I'm gonna say this completely objectively. I think if they honestly think that they can just have Stephon Gilmore be their #1 corner and not have Malcolm Butler, they're idiots. Now they have a track record of just proving people wrong as they just slide right in, like sliding into DMs. But I just see them like how they want to trade Butler when I think he made the Pro Bowl either last year or 2 years ago, one of the two. And he's a good corner, but I just don't see how just Stephon Gilmore can do what he does. Like, if they were smart, they would have both of them and have a good secondary there, and they would lock up the defense. But it's just, I don't know. I just don't like it. And another thing, I don't like the Cooks trade. I do kind of like it because it helps my team. Atlanta doesn't have to worry about him, especially with Drew Brees throwing the ball. I just have to worry about, every 4 years or so whenever we face the Patriots in that regard. But, I mean, hey, fine with me.
Now,
I don't like the trade because it's a small receiver. I think if they were able to get Alshon Jeffrey, that would have been a better. Obviously, he was already gone by the time I think they made the trade. But I think if they were smart, they would try and get a big receiver. So when Gronk does go down, because he is their big receiver.
Receiver, I wouldn't say is their #1 problem. Wow, he's wide open.
You almost catch that. He actually almost caught that.
They have Amendola, they have Edelman, they have Gronk. I just think that, here's my opinion. You can't go wrong with the Patriots. I know I hate them as much as everyone else, but as long as Bill Belichick is coaching and Tom Brady is throwing the ball, the Patriots are going to be the AFC East champions, and they're probably going to go at least as far as the AFC Championship. As much as we hate to admit it, it's the reality of things. With everything that they did, considering losing offensive weapons, losing or not re-signing defensive players, and we might be overreacting. Hightower hasn't left yet. He hasn't signed a newer yet. But I keep fucking up these kicks so bad. But just in general, where I see the Patriots standing right now is making the divisional or AFC Championship and losing to a team only because the defense couldn't hold on at the end. And they're going to look back at the offseason and they're going to say, well, you didn't re-sign Hightower, you didn't re-sign Butler. Instead, you went out and got another wide receiver, which Brady didn't even necessarily need, because Brady can turn any receiver into a god apparently. And you have one side of the ball where like nothing can go wrong. The Patriots offense has been one of the best offenses in the league for the past
And
however many years Brady has been in the league. Brady can't control the defense.
When has Brady ever had a true number one receiver other than Randy Moss?
Right. Like
and had a bad season as well. He's had mid-tier at best wide receivers and turned them into basic Pro Bowlers. And then when he finally had a very good receiver in Randy Moss, he sets the NFL passing touchdowns record. So Brady doesn't need necessarily help on offense other than probably an offensive line.
Right.
So why they would trade for a young receiver? Yes, he's a speedy receiver, so you can like take the top out in the defense, I guess, but it wasn't necessary. So it's like one of those moves where I'm like thinking, why would they make that trade when it wasn't necessary? And then they're also thinking about trading Butler still, even though he's a good young corner and has the potential to be a very good corner. It's one of those where I'm like questioning why they would consider doing that.
So, bottom line, Patriots may be making some dumb moves, in our opinion, but they're still the New England Patriots, and they're still Super Bowl contenders, no matter what way we look at it, and we're going to have to swallow that. So, moving on to
as TB12 and Belichick are there,
we have 2 minutes left.
Every single year.
We have 2 minutes left in the first half. I'm playing like shit, mainly because of this lag and because I'm not paying a whole lot of attention. But
I'm more or less paying no attention on offense.
Now, on to one of the funnier free agent, I don't know how to word this, free agent occurrences of the offseason so far. The whole Brock Osweiler thing. So, for those of you who don't know, let me just put it in basic terms for you. Brock Osweiler played like absolute shit last year for the Texans. Somehow they made the playoffs, but that's because the AFC South is the new NFC East.
And they had a great defense.
And their defense, right. So, but bottom line, Osweiler played like ass. Now, he gets traded to the Cleveland Browns for a 4th-round pick and I believe a 6th-round pick. Houston got in return was the 4th-round pick. Now,
either a pick or draft picks.
Houston only got 1 pick. Cleveland got 2 and Osweiler. If that alone doesn't tell you, Brock Osweiler, that you aren't worth jack, let's go a little bit farther. How about the fact that Cleveland only accepted that trade for the draft picks, and they are planning on releasing Brock Osweiler very shortly after. I find this hilarious, and I kind of feel a little bad for Osweiler, but at the same time, it's kind of funny. And
I
what's your
find it
thoughts?
completely hysterical because it's like I always felt like Osweiler, if he stayed in Denver, he would have been a solid quarterback. I never thought, even during the whole Peyton Manning, who should start him or hang on one second.
I mean, jumping off what you just said, actually, Osweiler leaving Denver and going to Houston was probably one of the dumbest mistakes he had made, because you had just watched Peyton Manning bring Denver to a Super Bowl in which Denver had no offense. Like, they were hardly scoring. The Super Bowl, had you watched it, wouldn't have been won by the Denver Broncos had it not been for their defense. And same goes along with
technical difficulties.
Same goes along with the AFC Championship and most of their postseason run, and that goes straight out of bounds almost. But the bottom line is him leaving. He pulled a Tim Tebow, in my opinion. Tebow left. I mean, Tebow didn't willingly leave the Broncos. The Broncos signed Peyton instead. But Tebow could have gone to a place that actually needed him. Instead, he went to the Jets, and we all know what happened after that.
To his help, the Jets didn't really want him, which I'm not really not going to try and defend him in that regard. But I never really used him. And back to what I was going to say is, I think if he stayed in Denver, he would have been at least better than he was with Houston. I didn't think he was a great quarterback. I thought he would have been solid, but I definitely didn't expect this kind of a season from him. I mean, who knows? Maybe whatever team wants to have him, he does something. I'm trying to be as nice as possible with him, but I don't know.
All right. Now, most of you watching, we're not going to spend too much time on the Osweiler thing because it's really very irrelevant. But a lot of you watching have probably been wondering why we are avoiding the two big obvious free agent questions, which is Tony Romo and all the running backs that are available right now. Don't worry, we'll get to those. Just getting through some of the minor stuff first. Another big one that happened, Martellus Bennett leaving the Patriots and going to the Green Bay Packers. Yeah, even though we just talked about how the Patriots are only stacking up their offense, they lost a pretty good tight end in Martellus Bennett. And I know you're thinking the whole Gronk, it's still Gronk. They still have Gronk. Gronk gets hurt a lot. So losing Martellus Bennett isn't great for the Patriots. It's great for the Packers to pick him up. But that's what I want to focus on more is how big of an impact he'll have with the Packers. So the Packers last year, they go to the playoffs. They beat the Giants in the first round. They beat the Cowboys on Aaron Rodgers' magic. They go to the NFC Championship game and they just bombshell against the Falcons.
One thing in defense with Green Bay, their secondary was torn out. Their receivers weren't great. Yes, that was more or less the case when they faced the Cowboys. Their receivers, did I even catch that? No, I did not. But one thing I'm reminded of, and you can, I'm not sure how you're gonna feel about this. It's booth review actually.
Oh, you got it. It's still 3rd and 1 though.
It's still 3rd and 1, so I don't see the.
It still
point
says
in
incompletion too, so I don't know what overturned meant, but.
I don't know if you remember when Aaron Rodgers had Jermichael Finley when he actually had a good tight end, how good that offense was. I'm remembering that is how he could end up. Damn it! I almost got a touchdown. I think it's way more improvement than Finley because Martellus hasn't proven to be any kind of an injury-prone tight end or even just player in general. He's always been reliable. So
what I like about the move
I'm very intrigued by this. I'm scared, not gonna lie, because we have to face them, and not just probably I think in the regular season this year. But most likely in the playoffs, we have to worry about them, and I'm honestly terrified of that, especially as a Falcon. With our paper-thin defense. I mean, it's gotten better, but
from a Packers standpoint,
giving Aaron Rodgers
my favorite
any kind of target is already scary enough as it is.
Well, from a Packers standpoint, my favorite part about the move is the fact that now they have Jared Cook and Martellus Bennett. Jared Cook already is one of the faster tight ends in the league and one of the most athletic tight ends in the league. Martellus Bennett, is Martellus Bennett. He's, in my opinion, the most athletic tight end in the league.
I can agree with that.
So, overall, I do like the move by the Packers. I think it's really going to help their offense. But I don't know necessarily if their offense needed it. Now, I'm never going to put down picking up somebody like Martellus Bennett. It's always a good idea no matter what. But when you have a secondary that, like you said, was torn up in the NFC Championship game, granted, yes, Atlanta had a superhuman offense, but, you can't just... You have a secondary that basically blew your season last year, and you were one win away from the Super Bowl, which is your ultimate goal, and the secondary is the thing that blew it. So wouldn't you think that that would be your first priority? I don't know. I haven't really seen too many moves by the Packers to try to build that secondary, but
I
I don't know. We'll
mean,
see how it
the
happens. But
Patriots were looking to trade Malcolm Butler. Maybe they
I know
trade for Martellus Bennett. They get Bennett back. No, I'm just kidding. In all seriousness,
that'd be funny
I think that would actually be very hysterical. But I agree with you on there. There wasn't really much corner. There wasn't really much defensive backs that I can think of other than the only real big name was Eric Berry, but he was franchise tagged. He wasn't going to leave Kansas City. We're not going to talk about him. But there really wasn't any real corners or secondary in free agency where like would have went anywhere. Like they didn't really have much to
though.
work,
I
is what
wasn't
I'm
paying
getting at
attention.
as far as
I was
secondary
looking through
goes.
shit.
So it was kind of like one of those where it's like when you're in a draft room and you're like have a low round pick. It's kind of like a first round pick. It's kind of like you pick best available, and one of the best available was a tight end. They didn't really have much secondary. So
All right,
I mean,
well,
I like it.
we have 19 seconds left in the first half here. I'm just going to quickly, before we're going to spend most of the second half talking about the really big ones like Tony Romo and all the running backs and stuff. I just want to switch over to the defense we haven't talked too much about. One of the biggest, and no pun intended when I say biggest, defensive players out there, Donatary Poe. He recently visited with the Falcons, actually. But why wouldn't he throw
As
the
you
ball?
get.
Donatary Poe, he's still a free agent. Like I just said, he met with the Falcons recently. He also has visited the Colts and the Jaguars. But obviously you would love to see him go to the Falcons. But if you're Kansas City, why are you letting him go?
I'm actually okay if I was in Kansas City. How you almost caught that, or even close. I'm actually okay with Kansas City letting him go because, yes, he is, again, no pun intended to use your words again, a big force in the run defense. He's just like him and Terrence Knight and just those defensive tackles, those defensive linemen that are just monstrous. That in a run defense, they just completely wall. And so you do think, why do you get rid of a player like that? But I'm kind of like, why would they let him go? But at the same time, it's kind of like I'm not really think they're concerned. Because they have Tom Bahali, they still have a good defense. It's gonna be a huge hit. But I mean, I don't know. I'm surprised by it, but I'm not to the extent of like I just missed this field goal. Oh wow, I made it actually. I don't know. It's definitely interesting to say the least. But who knows?
So we've reached halftime in this game. It's kind of a shitty game, mainly because of the lag and stuff, and we're not paying as much attention as we probably should be. But second half, we have the third quarter here, and we're going to talk about the main one, Tony Romo. Everybody has been talking about Tony Romo. Let me fill everybody in if you've been under a rock in the NFL world for the past couple months. So, as we all know, how did that ball just kind of landed in your hand? Thank you. Anyways, so we all know Tony Romo gets hurt in the preseason last year. Dak Prescott takes over, has a inhuman-like season, quote unquote. I mean, he didn't have that great of a season. It was kind of mainly all hyped around Elliott and the offensive line. But regardless, Dak Prescott had a pretty good season with the Cowboys. He's their future quarterback. Romo has got his foot out the door. So why is this thing with the Cowboys like happening here? Cowboys say they're going to release him like last Thursday. All of a sudden now they're saying, nope, we might trade him. Now the last thing I saw, nope, we're not going to trade him. So kind of wondering what's happening with the Cowboys here. is there any part of you that wants to see Romo stay with the Cowboys?
As weird as this might sound, yes. Because if I was Dallas, here's the thing. Again, I'm going to be speaking objectively here. If you're Dallas, either you trade him away, and as much as I die from him, you're really not. Get as much value as you can from Romo, because I think he's going to be a solid quarterback starter for any team. He's better than about half the NFL starters, give or take. You know, yes, he's injury prone, but he's still a very good starter, in my opinion.
Well, I
it
think
was
one of the biggest impacts...
2 or 3 years ago, we talked about him being a top 10 quarterback. You know, I think it was 2014 when he led them to the division round with the Packers with the cough, not a catch. But he's proven to be a very good quarterback. Yes, he throws late game interceptions. Yes, he's injury prone. But I think
makes
either
clutch
you
plays.
try and trade him away, or you keep him and have basically the best backup quarterback and someone to mentor Prescott, if you want to be like that.
See, the
Either you
hardest
milk
part
and
about
get as much
trading Tony
value-
Romo is how much they paid him a couple years ago. Romo's got this big
True.
contract on him. You release him, you're good. You don't really, unless you get past
You
a
get a
certain
huge
date.
cap hit.
Yeah, that's basically it. Other than that, like, if you trade him, what team is going to want to pick up Tony Romo's salary? Yeah, if you trade for Tony Romo, you're trading to get him to be your starting quarterback. But Romo hasn't done anything in the past past year
Other than 2014, yeah.
to prove that he still deserves that contract. He definitely deserved it when he got it, but he doesn't quite deserve it anymore is what I'm trying to get at. So, that being said, if he does get released, all this does go through as every NFL expert thinks it will. What team, let's list off the teams that have expressed some kind of interest in Tony Romo. There's Buffalo, there's the Jets, there's Kansas City for some reason, which I find a little odd. There's Denver, there's Houston. Denver and Houston seem to be the main two, but those are
I
the
saw the
main
Niners
ones,
as well.
really. The Niners could be on there now that Kaepernick's gone. They still do have Gabbert, though, but who knows. But overall, I think that my personal hot spot for Romo, where I want to see Tony Romo go, is Denver. Only because I
Really?
know he can help them win. Denver has a solid defense. They need a better offensive line, and especially when you have a quarterback like Romo, you need a better offensive line. But to me, I just think that Denver is, like I said earlier with Osweiler, they won the Super Bowl with Peyton in his final year, and Peyton Manning is Peyton Manning, but Denver had no offense that year, and Peyton Manning definitely looked like he was 50 years old. So they still won the Super Bowl that year. So I think Romo, he's younger than Peyton was at his final season. He's definitely, considering the injuries, he's still in better shape than Peyton was in that final season. I just think that Denver is the hot spot for him because that gives him the best opportunity to win. And that's, at this point in Tony Romo's career, that's all he cares about. He just wants to win once.
I'm actually not on Denver. I think his best chance is Houston because defensively it's about the same. We can compare the players to the come on to see which is really better or something like that. They both have good defenses. Where I think I like Houston more is, one, he stays in the state of Texas, which I think that's what he wants himself. And also, he has a run game with, I think they have Lamar Miller as their running back,
Right.
if I remember correctly. And they have a decent offensive line to protect him. It's definitely better than Denver, which isn't saying much,
Right.
because really any offensive line is better than Denver, if we're being honest with ourselves here. But he would have an offensive line, he'd have a run game and a defense, more or less he'd be back with Dallas, except with a defense. Like, when has the Cowboys ever put a defense around Romo to help him? Yes, they got the offensive line, but the defense is more or less just middle of the pack, if I'm being generous here. So, when you have that, it's kind of like, what do you have? As you have someone wide open. I don't know how you almost caught that.
Well, in my
I
opinion,
like
well,
Houston
it looks
again,
like
he has a
Denver,
defense
or it
and a
looks like
run game.
Houston actually is the main goal, like the main target. It looks like that's the most likely choice is Houston, which is mostly because of what you said with the whole hometown thing. But I don't know. Houston needs a lot more than just a quarterback to be
Damn.
a winning team. They need another running. Lamar Miller's good, but he's not a all-star running back. He's not someone who's going to help Romo out a whole lot like he's used to with DeMarco Murray. And even before that, he used to have, was it Marion Barber? He used to actually be really good. So Romo was used to some good running backs in Dallas. He's not going to get that in Houston. That's why I like Denver's idea better. But another weird one was Kansas City. Now, should Romo go to Kansas City? What would your thoughts be? Did you just
What would they
see
do with Alex?
number 21 do like a front flip?
Yeah, I know.
You need to go back and watch the YouTube video later. At 3:30 in the third quarter, I'm going to remember that. I'm going to watch him do that whole front flip. That was funny. All right, go ahead. So if Dallas,
City,
or whatever, you know what I was saying.
If they even considered, well, they are considering that. If they did get Romo, that's one of those where you're saying you don't want Alex Smith anymore, basically, because you're not. Because
Almost like what San
I don't
Francisco
remember
did
who
to him.
said this, but like if you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterback, because, and that's another thing why I think Dallas also is, as I did think Dallas should keep Romo. I also can see them not needing him because if you have two quarterbacks, it's going to cause all kinds of controversy, no matter what. And in Kansas City, they've proven to be just fine with Alex Smith. And in my opinion, if they did. This is roughing the
Bullshit.
passer, by the way. This is going to be roughing the passer.
Intentional grounding. Word.
But I think if they got Romo, it'd be more of a downgrade because Alex Smith is underrated as far as athleticism goes, and he's proven to be just fine. Without what the fuck? He's proven to be just fine. Leading Kansas City doesn't really need too much around him. He's just a game manager. And would Romo be able to fit that as well? Yes, but I just don't think they need him. It's like one of those where it's a very odd ball. It's like, you don't need Romo. Why are you trying to go after him when you already have a quarterback?
Right. To me, it would be San Francisco all over again. They had Alex Smith, who brought him to the NFC Championship game. Colin Kaepernick comes in. They basically tell Alex Smith, yeah, we like Kaepernick better. They start Kaepernick over him next season. Alex Smith goes to Kansas City. Yes, Kaepernick led the 49ers to a Super Bowl, but they lost. And everything that's happened after that. Now he's a free agent who I don't even think he's going to get signed. And if he does get signed, he's not going to do anything anywhere.
He's going to be a backup.
Right. But for Tony Romo, he just needs to do what's best for his career. And to me, I think you're right kind of with the Houston thing. I think that's a good option. But I think the best for his career, wow.
All right, that happened.
I think the best for his career is Denver. In my opinion, I realize the offensive line needs a lot of work. But if you are to sign Tony Romo, and if you're to sign Tony Romo after the Cowboys release him rather than trading for him, you save a lot of cap space because it probably won't take much to get Romo. Probably a 2-year, $20 million contract, and you have him. So I just think that you get Romo if you're Denver, you get Romo, and then you just spend all the rest of your cap space on your offensive line, and you're a Super Bowl contender, just like that. That's why I think that he should go to Denver. But what's the likelihood of them getting Romo and then actually going to go get offensive linemen? Slim to none. So we'll have to wait and see. It's going to be weird seeing Tony Romo in a different uniform other than a Cowboys should he actually leave.
I mean, we also said the
But-
same thing about painting with Denver, more or less.
But as long as Dak Prescott is playing like he has been, you're not going to see Romo start a game for the Cowboys again, whether he's on the team or not. So I just think that if you're Romo, you need to get out of Dallas. And if you're Denver, you need to go after him and you need to pick up a... Now, moving over to Denver,
Here's the thing.
I do like Paxton Lynch and I do like Trevor Siemian. Neither of them are, like, great quarterbacks. They're both, like, average. But somebody like Tony Romo, who has been in those situations and has played big games and knows how to win, and I know a lot of people diss Romo for throwing interceptions late in games, but he is a very clutch quarterback, and the stats back that up completely. So, overall, I do think that Romo can help a team win, and he can be an it factor for a team still, even considering his age. It's just he has to be put in a position to win. And he never seems to get that with the Cowboys, whether it's him getting injured or something else happening with the Cowboys that just kind of screws Romo over. But I think Romo's good enough to help a team win. It's just he has to be given a few things first. In my opinion, Romo's a lot like Eli. I love Eli. I'm a huge Giants fan. Eli Manning, to me, is a great quarterback. But you put you put Eli Manning on the Jacksonville Jaguars, he plays exactly like Blake Bortles does now. Now, you put Eli on the New England Patriots, he's a Super Bowl champion. He's one of those quarterbacks where he can win, and he can win you a Super Bowl, but you have to help him out a little. And
Because I can't throw the ball away.
so, to me, that's where I think I stand on the whole Romo thing. We got 17 seconds left in the third quarter. We're going to devote the whole fourth quarter to running back. So your closing thoughts on Romo as we head into the fourth.
Again, I think his best case is Houston, but I'm not no way dismissing saying Denver, he shouldn't go there. Like, if he got a chance to go to Denver, go there. But I think his best chance is Houston because he'd have a run game, he would have a defense just like Denver, and he doesn't have the same offensive weapons, obviously. I just think it's a better fit for him.
So, moving on to the running back category as we go into the fourth quarter here with me up 36-25 in a game that, again, we're more talking than paying attention to the game. But this year has been weird for running backs. There was a lot of great free agent running backs out there, starting with like the top one, obviously, Adrian Peterson. And then, down from there you got Latavius Murray, Eddie Lacy, who has already signed with the Seattle Seahawks. You have Jamal Charles, who was cut by the Kansas City Chiefs after being injured a couple years in a row. So you got some big-name running backs out here, and there's definitely some teams that could use a running back. Now,
How did I not get that?
Adrian Peterson, we're going to start with him. First of all, for me, I'm going to hate seeing Adrian Peterson on a team other than the Vikings, just because when you get a player that has been like the face of the franchise for so long, and just like that, he's going to go to another team, it's just weird to me. I don't like it, but, what are you going to do? It's football. I didn't catch that. Okay.
Yes, you did.
I thought
You
he
bitch.
stepped out first. So, where do you want to see Peterson go if it's not the Vikings?
There's two teams that I think his best chance to win a Super Bowl is Oakland, but I think the best place for that, obviously Latavius Murray is also a free agent. There's a chance that that they want Murray more than Peterson, which I honestly agree with. Peterson, I think, is like 31, 32 years old, so he's up there in age. Murray, obviously younger, in my opinion, better, especially with what he brings. But I think if Oakland had the opportunity to get Adrian Peterson, if I was the GM, I would take that in a heartbeat because he's still a good running back. He's still serviceable.
Well, to me, I think Oakland needs to hold on to Latavius Murray, but we'll get to him in a second. For me, Adrian Peterson, you're right. His best position to win is Oakland, and that's hands down. I think his second best position to win, and I realize that a lot of people are going to think I'm biased here, but I think it's the Giants because now I think that the only thing they're missing is a running back. You had one of the best defenses in the league last year. You've just added Brandon Marshall like we talked about earlier, and how the offense was the only thing that the Giants really needed to work on this offseason, which is weird to say because how horrible their defense has been recently. But
it was reversed in the offseason.
Yeah. So I look at the Giants, and the Giants need offensive linemen more than a running back, but a big-name running back wouldn't be bad either. So I definitely think the Giants would be in a position to win if they had a big-name running back like Adrian Peterson. But for Adrian Peterson's standpoint, I agree with you. I do think Oakland is the best position to win. And as for Minnesota, I just feel bad for. I mean, you miss a chip shot field goal to beat Seattle 2 years ago. Then you go back to the next season and you lose Teddy Bridgewater on just a horrific injury. And who knows if he's even going to be ready for next season. So, yeah, I understand him not wanting to go back to Minnesota, even though they do have that high-powered defense. I agree. I think Oakland is the best place for him. Jamal Charles, injury-prone running back. He's another one I would like to see go on the Giants as a Giants fan, but he is somebody that I think, in my opinion, you might disagree with this. I think Jamal Charles has hit his downslope, and I don't think we're ever going to see like the kind of production we used to see from him ever again.
We talked about this a little earlier today. I like Jamal Charles to the Giants because he fits their scheme. I do agree they need a bruising back in the sense of like when it's those third and shorts or even in the goal line, you need a power back, and you don't have that with Charles. And you have that with Adrian Peterson. In my opinion, the best running back that they could go for is Latavius Murray. If they get Latavius Murray, that's better than all of them because he's basically, if you put Jamal Charles and Adrian Peterson together, I'm not saying he's better than both
make
of them.
Him a little younger.
I'm saying he's that kind of a skill set. He has that kind of skill set. He can run between the tackles and catch out of the backfield.
Right.
So if they were
I
able
agree
to,
with that. I definitely think the Giants need Latavius Murray more than any other running back in free agency. But back to Jamal Charles here. He had a shot with Seattle. Seattle ends up signing Eddie Lacy, which I think Seattle kind of kicked the bucket on that one. I don't know what Seattle was thinking. You visited with Adrian Peterson and Jamal Charles, and you signed Eddie Lacy. I don't know what their thought process was there, but I guess young was their thought process, young and fat. But I don't know. I just think that
nice here.
I just ran into your kicker. I just think that with Jamal Charles, I like Jamal Charles. I really liked him in Kansas City, and I really like him as a running back. I think he's just washed up now. I just think he's run his course in the NFL. Injuries have caught up to him, and I think age has probably caught up to him a lot too. And
now I have a question for you then.
Yeah.
Why are you saying that about Jamal Charles and not Adrian Peterson?
Adrian Peterson has proven he can come back from an injury. Jamal Charles, he comes back from an injury and gets injured again. Adrian Peterson, he never lost his spot in Minnesota. Whenever Adrian Peterson came back, he was instantly the starting running back again. Now, Niles Davis is a little bit different than McKinnon for the Vikings, but I just think that Adrian Peterson has proven that even with injury or even after injury he can play. Jamal Charles hasn't. That's my difference between the two. Plus, Peterson's a much bigger guy, so just like physically he's able to endure more. But who knows? I don't know. Do you disagree with that or?
We'll step off Jamal Charles and we can go to Latavius Murray here in the 2-minute warning. I think Jamal Charles, he needs to go to a scheme that fits the West Coast. That's something that he fits. So like the Giants. Also, I've never thought about this, but Green Bay as well could also be an option. But I don't think Green Bay would go for him because I think they want a power back more.
Right.
But, I mean, I don't know.
To me, I would like to see the Giants get at least one running back out of these three. I mean, even if it is Jamal Charles, I mean, that's still great for the Giants.
Where it's like you're not losing with either option. It's just there are one option is
in my opinion,
clearly worse.
Personal opinion right now, not even for the Giants, just any NFL team that is out there looking for a running back right now, I think Latavius Murray should be your number one choice, only because he's younger and he's putting up numbers now. Adrian Peterson and Jamal Charles put up numbers a couple of years ago.
A long time ago. Well, not long time
Latavius
ago,
Murray
but
put up
long
numbers
time.
last year and the year before that. So I think that Latavius Murray should be any NFL team that's looking for running backs number one right now, and especially Oakland. I don't know how Oakland can deal with themselves if they lose Latavius Murray, but I think Latavius Murray's number one, Adrian Peterson number two, and then Jamal Charles at number three. And, I mean, Eddie Lacy would have been my number four, but he already got signed. Is that the same rankings for you, or you got something different?
So just run me by me again, because I was kind of focused on getting a 2-point. One time I was actually focused on this game. You said Adrian Peterson number one. No, you said
you just got the
Murray
onside.
number one. Did I really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's like the first time I ever got that. On a live broadcast, I finally get onside, so I have a chance to.
I was trying to switch it to onside recover too, but I couldn't. My top three were it was Latavius, Adrian, and Jamal.
Yeah, like, and it's one of those where it's like no three are like bad. It's not like one of those where like, oh, we got Jamal Charles, we didn't get Latavius Murray. Oh fuck. No, it's like one of those where it's like we got Jamal Charles, we still have a good running back. Obviously, Latavius Murray is better because he has so much more potential. And I think unless the Raiders get Adrian Peterson, if they don't sign Latavius Murray, they need to kick themselves in their own ass because you basically lost on a young stud running back, and you need to keep him.
Right. So, just overall, I think that for the Giants, I know I'm talking about the Giants a lot here, and for the Giants and for any NFL team looking for a running back, I do think that you need Latavius Murray to be your number one. But I don't know. We'll see. There's some other deals that have just kind of happened. I'm gonna go off some of the small ones here. This game looks like it might end up heading to overtime unless you miss the extra point. So, we might have a little bit more time. Let's actually look at some of these lower name quarterbacks. Quarterback, obviously, one of the biggest, in my opinion, the biggest position on a football team. So there's some quarterbacks out there that are looking for a home. Colin Kaepernick, we mentioned earlier. Jay Cutler was released by the Bears. He is a free agent. But let's focus on Cutler here for a second. Now, Jay Cutler with the Bears, I don't know why it took the Bears this long to get rid of Jay Cutler, but now that he is gone, the first thing I want to ask is, where do you think Jay Cutler is going to go? And B, where are the Bears going to go from here? Because you lost Jay Cutler. Like, you got rid of Jay Cutler, great, but you still suck. And now you don't even have a quarterback. Go ahead.
The one thing I have is, I'm focusing on this real quick. With Jake, with the Bears, I just see how they can, more or less. I believe they had the 3rd overall pick. I might be wrong when I say it, but I would say if they want to go with, say either Deshaun Watson or Trubisky, one of the two, they can go with them there. I don't know. I'm definitely like wondering, and it looks like we will go to overtime.
I got 1 second.
So
we can do this
more. Nick,
go ahead.
You're not gonna get this.
Wow.
No, I know why you're not, unless you pull something here.
All right. Oh, okay.
That's why I said that. You're not gonna pull Music City Miracle. So we have overtime. Talk about this more. But I think if they want to go young, I would say either Trubisky or Watson, and that could be another debate. We're not going to talk about that. But say they want to pick a quarterback in the draft. I think the Bears, even if with the release of Jay Cutler, win, because Cutler isn't much of a starter. He has the talent, but then it's kind of like, what else? Okay,
I thought you were going to be out at the 1.
I thought I was going to be at the 1 as well.
That would have been the greatest kickoff ever.
Wait.
Oh, I gave you a safety!
That's a safety!
That was the greatest kickoff ever. Oh my god.
I think that's the quickest overtime.
I love my life. That was well. How about that?
On broadcast.
For
breaking the
YouTube
fourth wall.
broadcast.
I'm glad we got this on broadcast.
That was fantastic. All right.
So
anyways,
I guess we can look at highlights.
Well, we'll just do a quick
saying,
free agency wrap up here, and we'll do some final thoughts on both Jay Cutler and Colin Kaepernick while we do look at some of the highlights here. And I definitely want to take a look at that last play because that was just.
All right, so back to what I was saying with Cutler. I think the Bears win because they're going to get younger, and they don't. Again, strength is the leadership that has always constantly been a question for him. In my opinion, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be refuted on that, but it's like, I don't know. I think Cutler is a solid quarterback. I think he could be a starter for, again, it's kind of like one of those where it's like with Romo, back to Romo. I think Romo could start for half NFL teams, not just the ones we mentioned, but half the NFL teams, and be a solid quarterback. Cutler is about the same. He's a mid-tier quarterback, and he could win games. The only thing is he's not a good leader, so it's when the quarterback, it has to be a leader. Like when you look at not just Super Bowl quarterbacks, but when you look at the great quarterbacks, arguably in the league, like top 10 quarterbacks,
they're all the leaders of their team.
Eli Manning, in my opinion, is one of the best examples because he's the leader by example. Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. I'm just naming some off the top of my head. Roethlisberger.
So I think
Matt Ryan won MVP this year. I can go on and on and on. Yes, I know it's a Super Bowl quarterback, but he had a great year. But more often than not, you have a quarterback that is a leader. Or is a good leader. That's what you want in a quarterback because they lead the offense more or less. You know.
So I think what happened with this safety, not to get too off topic here, but so
I'm actually gonna look this up myself.
Moraney, who is your number 87, the return guy there, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He reached out. He reached out and caught the ball at the goal line, and then right before he stepped out, he tucked it. And he brought it back into the end zone and ran out of bounds. So he caught it like just off the goal line, but when he went back into when he tucked it into his body, it brought it back into the end zone, and that's why. I don't know. Madden might have just kind of glitched there, but That is the funniest victory I've ever gotten on Madden. And I
Yeah.
wasn't even paying attention. And Russell
but-
Wilson low-key getting 6 touchdown passes. But
Yeah, another quarterback that's also a good leader as well. If we're going back to leaders, so that's the one real trait that Cutler doesn't have.
yeah,
That would
Cutler is
separate him, 'cause if
definitely
he
not
had
a
that-
leader. Cutler is definitely not a leader. You watch him during Bears games, and I'll be completely honest, I don't watch Bears games at all unless they're playing the Giants, or unless it's like a primetime game.
Televised game.
But you watch Jay Cutler, he'll go out, he'll throw an interception, he'll walk back to the bench, he'll sit down, and he'll just look at the iPad or the tablet or whatever. He won't. You never see him communicating with players. You never see him having any sort of leadership mentality on that team. And I think that was also part of the reason with Colin Kaepernick. I just think that he let all this social justice shit go to his head, and he just kind of became. Football became secondary to him.
Yes,
So-
but I think he could have been a great leader if he took those social justice. He was a solid quarterback. I'm going to be completely objective.
Oh, yeah.
He was
Oh, yeah.
mobile, and he was a solid quarterback. I think if he used that momentum from all the social stuff, we're not going to get into that because if you don't know what we're talking
Yeah.
about, look it up. It's pretty prevalent as what
It's
he
not
did.
worth talking about.
Yeah,
again.
we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about what he did or how.
We're not going to
went, but
talk about what ESPN has talked about for like 10 years.
3 months.
Feels like 10
more
years.
or less. Yeah, I'm being brief in mine.
Feels like 10 years.
But my point is, he could have used that to rally the troops in the sense of not only do I fight for this, I'm going to fight for the team, yada 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 yada. But he didn't. He only focused on the social stuff, and like you said, football became secondary to him. Which, when that is your job, why do you
It
put your
should be
job
primary.
secondary? It's like bruh, like think for once in your life, Kaepernick.
So, a final little recap before we sign this off. There's definitely been a lot of moves that have intrigued me. I would say the most surprising thing that happened this offseason was the Giants signing Brandon Marshall, only because I'm a Giants fan. I know how they are during the offseason. I know they were big spenders last year, but I didn't expect us to go after a big-name wide receiver like that and not offensive linemen and running
Now,
backs.
I actually have a question for you when you finish what you're saying.
Go for it. go ahead
How
and
would
ask
you
me.
thought they got Alshon Jeffrey instead of
I would have liked Alshon Jeffrey on the team better than Brandon Marshall, only because
he's
Alshon
younger?
Jeffrey has proven lately that he's still, Alshon Jeffrey played for the Chicago Bears last season, and he did pretty damn well. Now, anybody who played for the Chicago Bears last season and did damn well deserves, some kind of reward. So, to me, I would have liked to see Alshon Jeffrey. To me, I would have liked to see Alshon Jeffrey on the team, but Brandon Marshall, he's a big guy, he's a tall guy, which helps. He's 6'5" or something like that.
Yeah, like I said, he helps in the red zone, inside the 5, inside the 10, inside the 5. Instead of
And you've
notice,
taken
not
a
saying you couldn't
lot
go
of
to
pressure
Odell.
off Eli Manning. I've already seen the
But I'm
meme
not
with
saying you
Eli
wouldn't go to
throwing
Odell
it
in
with
the
his
red zone
eyes
like that.
closed and saying, fuck it, Odell or Marshall has got to be somewhere out there, which I find, most Giants fans find that kind of, annoying, but I find it kind of funny. I mean, that's basically all Eli has to do now is just throw it up. Marshall or Odell is bound to be somewhere. But anyways, getting back off the Giants and just trying to stick to the whole NFL here, I just think that was the most surprising move. I think the biggest deal that still needs to be done. Here, I'm just going to go through my biggest surprise, biggest deal that needs to be done, and what I want to see. You can do your 3, and then we're going to sign off. So, my biggest surprise, Brandon Marshall to the Giants. I think the biggest deal that needs to be done is Hightower needs to be re-signed to the Patriots. That's from a Patriots standpoint. I just think that the Patriots are going all in on offense, and you can't just ignore the defense. I think if you lose Hightower, I don't think you have that Super Bowl championship team anymore.
Not to cut you
So
off, they also traded away Jamie Collins, so they basically will be thin at the linebacker spot if they do lose Hightower.
and the secondary spot should you still lose Malcolm Butler. So that all being said, I think that's one of the biggest moves that need to be done is Hightower sticking with the Patriots. And the biggest thing I still want to see is this whole Tony Romo thing. I'm so sick of hearing about Tony Romo. Tony Romo this, Tony Romo that. I want him to sign with a damn team and start working on next season because it's, what, March already? Almost April? And we all
It's
know
still
how
a
quickly
controversy.
NFL offseason actually goes. It may seem like it goes slow, but then all of a sudden it's September. Bam, football starting. So
Yeah.
he's got to start focusing on next season. So he just needs to make a deal with somebody. Go somewhere.
All right. As
So your biggest surprise,
the
go
biggest, my biggest surprise is actually a tie between the Giants with Brandon Marshall because I honestly did not expect that whatsoever.
for it. Well,
Like,
whatever your
I
other
thought
one
he was
is,
gonna get
talk about
signed
that
somewhere.
one more. Whatever your other one is,
Yeah.
talk because I already talked a lot.
Yeah, I
Brandon
know.
Marshall.
I knew talking about that was just surprised me because I didn't think you'd go
Yeah.
anywhere else.
I hear you, I hear you.
Something like that. But my other one is the recent one with Eddie Lacy, and we talked about it because you had Adrian Peterson, and Jamal Charles, and you settled for Eddie Lacy. And
Right.
unless he proves me wrong, he is a power back, so maybe he can fill the void of Marshawn Lynch. But I felt like AP would have done that better. Latavius Murray probably would have felt that better, way better, obviously. So it's like one of those, why would you settle for Eddie Lacy? It's kind of like one of those, like, you know, you had other options, you had better options. Why choose him? What was next? Biggest thing I want to see done, right? Our biggest deal.
Thing that needs to get done.
This is a biased standpoint with me. I'll admit it. We talked about Dante Poe. I want him to sign with Atlanta because we need as much defensive help as we can get through free agency, through the draft. If we can get, especially him, who's a great run stuffer, pair him with Vic Beasley, who's a pass rusher. I really at that point we kind of drop as far as defensive talent goes. But signing him would be just, no pun intended, would be a huge acquisition for the Falcons. But a good reason to say, because he'd be a good run stuffer, and you know he's still a good defensive lineman in general.
And
the
then
last
lastly,
thing,
just the thing that just needs to get done.
I am kind of with you in Romo, but I also want to see. This might be as a shock, but I want to see the Patriots keep Malcolm Butler. Like that, they like get him out of the trade talks, keep him because he is more or less the future. Like if you talk about getting younger, keep fucking Malcolm Butler. Like you have Gilmore, who's also a young corner. I don't know. I think he's like in his mid-20s, and then I think Butler's like in his early 20s. I'm just guesstimating here. So you have two young corners, both good. Don't trade him unless you get either another corner back, or you move up in the draft, like higher in the first round. Then I could say, okay, maybe you didn't need to keep him. But unless you can get that, keep Butler and sign him to a deal. Whether it's long-term or not, maybe it's a 2-year deal or something like that. Whatever the case may be, keep him, or unless you can get, again, higher in the draft, then trade him. But otherwise, keep him on your team. He's too much of an asset to let go at this point.
So that's pretty much it for NFL free agency. If you watched, thanks for joining us. If you have any free agent opinions of your own, feel free to leave them in the comment section. I love debating NFL stuff. Even if you don't agree with me, I love debating. So, thanks for watching, guys, and we will definitely be back for some more Madden stuff, or I really haven't made a theme to my channel yet, so as you guys have probably figured out. So, again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.